Right, well, good morning, everyone. We're at 10 o'clock, and we like to start these meetings on time, so obviously we appreciate you being here. I was just explaining to both Ron from the MPO and Frank Domingo, who's from Stantec, and I'll introduce them properly in a moment, that even though we've had a number of reasons why our attendance has been low, partly, of course, due to people still recovering a little from the hurricane that we've had, the two, but also, of course, with minds focused, of course, as you've seen outside, with many people coming to check in to do their early voting. However, the reach of Engage Estero is very extensive. We have our excellent videographer here, Wilson Hawthorne, who does a great job of recording these meetings. So we will be posting the outcome of the meeting on YouTube, and our own opt-in email list of people who want to receive our communications is just under 10,000. And of course we will be providing a summary of the meeting in that way. And we do also have involvement with two of the publications here that go out to many of the gated communities. Some of you may have seen Seabreeze, and the reach that goes out to the East Corkscrew group, which is the East Corkscrew magazine, also feature a lot of the information that we provide. So that way, both for our speakers and for you, you know, we do communicate a great deal of important information in that way. Clearly, the topic of today, which is improving road safety in Southwest Florida, and of course specifically in Greater Estero, clearly has a lot of important implications. Many people, of course, are very concerned about road safety. You will, of course, be aware, I'm sure, of the many different accidents that have happened, both with motorcyclists and also some tragic problems that have occurred with the traffic light system and people turning left in particular in various places. I won't go into all of the details, but I'm sure you're aware of them. However, we've decided that it was important enough to put this meeting into two parts. The first part involves the review of the Metropolitan Planning Office as they seek to look at the Strategic Safety Action Plan and what sort of issues need to be taken into account in various locations and in various localities in Southwest Florida. And so today's meeting will be focused largely on that, although from a number of questions that were asked of us to raise with the speakers, both today and in our second meeting, we will be covering some of those. And of course, if you have specific questions, we will obviously be handling those as well. But before we get into that, I would, of course, like to just turn your attention to the Pledge of Allegiance before we get started. So if you will stand and state the pledge. So,
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So, some of you who may or may not know me, I'm the Chief Communications Officer of Engage Estero. Our President, Jim Gilmartin, is not here today. He's on a cruise up in Canada. He's been working very hard, and I think it's rather nice that he has a little relaxation just for now. But as I said, the particular focus today is improving road safety in Southwest Florida with a review of the Strategic Action Plan and the issues that have come up in relation to that. I'm very, very pleased to tell you that our two speakers today, Ron Gogoi from the Transport Planning Administration of Lee County Metropolitan Planning Organization on my far left, And in place of Matthew Mayer, who sadly has shingles at the moment and was unable to join us today, but from the Stantec office, we have Frank Domingo, who is the professional engineer and principal for Stantec, who's been very much involved in this work with Ron and with Don Scott of the County Metropolitan organization. So I'd like to hand over to Frank, who I think is going to take us off, and I hope you enjoy the presentation.
Just a quick background on, I know Matt's picture up there, younger, better looking, but sadly sometimes the principal has to come in and do the work. A little background on me: I've been in the industry for 37 years. I worked in government for 18, both at the state level and local level. So I've actually been the county engineer for Sarasota County a long time ago. I am celebrating, in February I will be celebrating 20 years as a transportation consultant. So I've been around a while. So what is a safety action plan? So I like this graphic. It's simplified, but it kind of takes you through the process of what we're doing. We're developing a plan, right? If you're to address safety along roadways for both vehicles and bicycles and pedestrians. First step was to identify our stakeholders, and we pulled together a team. We have a full-blown public information plan for this project. We've been collecting data, so that's very important, right? And data and statistics, sorting through those things are important to put this into context, right? We want the folks to understand where the problems are, and then start to solve for solutions. I'm gonna point at that. This is where we're at right now. This is, we've done a lot of data pulling. We've looked at a lot of statistics. It keeps coming in. We've been getting some public input as well and stakeholder input. But we're at, what are the potential solutions that need to be, we're going to identify the solutions in the plan. What are some of the recommendations? But we want to be able to bounce those off of the public and the stakeholders. The next step is going to be implementing those countermeasures, those solutions. So why this study? This is a national phenomenon, if you will, or a program. The federal government has issued a series of grants called Safe Streets for All, and Lee County applied for a grant to do the study. These are happening all over the United States because the statistics for roadway safety across the United States are pretty bad. I think we've had as many as about 42,000 people a year dying in car crashes or in crashes tied to roadway across the nation. And unfortunately in Lee County, it's actually even more pronounced. Florida is probably, I think, has maybe 5 or 6 of the worst entities with the worst statistics for fatalities and injuries and serious injuries. So, why the need for a study? These are particular to Lee County. We're averaging over 100 deaths a year on the roadways, which is pretty bad. Is really bad. Averaging over 600 serious injuries per year on the roadway network in Lee County. And what we're doing is identifying the corridors that are the worst, right? We're going to focus strategically. What do we want to do? We want to make recommendations as where do we need to focus on? Some of the impacts of all these crashes is about $2 billion in societal impacts a year. That's if you're looking at purely from a financial or actuarial standpoint, that is to me it's a red flag, and it is a red flag in the community. We all have recognized that. Some people may ask, hey, where do these costs come from? So it has to be done. It's kind of cold, but you have to say, what is the price of a life when you're actually doing calculations for cost and benefit, and how to, where are you going to expend funds to actually address this? So DOT actually uses $11 million as a life. That is the cost that we generally plug in. It's harsh, but when we're talking about strategizing and justifying the spend or getting extra funds, that's the basis for it. Right now we're focusing on the fatal and serious injury crashes. Going through this with Matt, I said, what defines, everybody knows what a fatality is, but what is a serious injury crash? So some of the factors in serious injury crashes, significant blood loss, internal injury, broken bones, and not just a broken finger or something like that, but those are like the basics for defining what a serious injury crash is. So you're going to hear us say this a lot. What is the high injury network? We're doing it on broadly across Lee County, but specifically in Estero, and you all who live here will probably say, thank you, Captain Obvious. We probably could have figured that out, but we had to back it up with statistics. So the major corridors, US 41, Three Oaks Imperial Parkway, Estero Parkway. So US 41 is basically the worst one. It has 2 fatal injury crashes and 9 serious injury crashes per year in US 41, and then it's evenly divided on the other 2 in terms of for second and third, they're about tied. They're basically tied for second. I was going to play this video of the crash at US 41 and Williams as it was reported in the news, but I think the words speak for itself. I didn't want to try and do 2 things on video when you're doing these things. Technology may not always work well, but the other side of it is, I don't know if you need to see the news clipping, and I watched it and I'm like, I don't think anybody needs to see it again. But a single crash with a motorcycle and a vehicle, and resulted in 5 deaths at one intersection in one crash. That is just, I got upset watching it. And I knew, Matt told me what was going to come up, but when he showed it to me last night, I was like, that is upsetting. And I think that is upsetting to the community. And the question is, my first question was purely analytical, is this the first one? And the answer is no. There was another one in 22. So, clearly there is opportunity for countermeasures. You know what, I'm going to jump past that because I don't want to do the video. So I'm going to pause here and ask you all, is there something we've missed? Is there something else we need to concentrate on in Estero? This is a question back to you all, is there something we missed? And Ron, if you would be so kind as to help me jot these down. I could write fast, but I should have been a doctor because my writing is horrible. So anything to add?
Yeah, moratorium on development until the infrastructure is in place. Absolutely, positively, it's gotten way out of hand. Infrastructure should be in place. Concurrency used to have that in place in the state of Florida. It's no longer. It needs to be brought back in the county.
Do you have recommendations?
We will.
Can we hear that?
That's the second. Okay, that's the second half.
Yeah.
So what we want to do is pause there because we're still consultants. Not everybody lives here, and you all live here, so the whole point of stakeholder is, did we miss anything? Have we missed anything? Is there another place we need to focus on? I know that we've taken a broader look at the whole county and the whole village, but we want to make sure that, you know, this is just a pause to go, what else? Is there something else we're missing? And I'm not going to address your question, but later I can speak to, you know, what governs that in the process. Yes, sir.
One of my observations is that the design of pedestrian and bikeways seems to come as an afterthought after the road is designed. And once you design the ideal, what you call the ideal road, or what the professionals call ideal road, the pedestrians and bicyclists are wedged in on what's left over. Is there a way to change that priority and look at a more balanced approach to that, to compromise that at a more acceptable level with current for pedestrian and bicycling and alternative traffic or alternative transportation methods?
And I can actually address that quickly. Is even the Florida Department of Transportation has adopted a context-sensitive design manual, and it basically, the first step is changing. The policy has to change the mindset of the designers and the planners, right? And I think that has changed. It is going to take some time to go through it and implement that change, but that has taken a while to get on the books. But that actually, we're starting to, the industry's starting to move in that direction, which I think is a good thing. The hard part is the transition time in between, as we, it's just going to take some time. But we can go more into that too, because some of the countermeasures are going to be addressing that. Yes, sir.
I think that's enforcement of the speed limits, and also somebody to watch the people who push go through the red lights. I don't see any enforcement at all in our area, and as long as you don't enforce it, they're going to just keep doing it. I second that, and let me kind of underline that by saying I spent 25 years in law enforcement. Traffic enforcement is manpower intensive. Lee County Sheriff's Office has the same complement of people staffing their traffic division that we had when I was down here in 2016. They do the best job they can. I think that a lot of cities in Florida are moving to technology to help enforce the law, speed cameras, traffic light cameras. You don't need to hire a consulting company to do that for you, or a company to manage that for you. It can be done by the county. It can be done by using retired police officers to write the tickets, to put them in the mail. I think there are factors. I think besides what the gentleman said about as far as the structures and the design of the roadways. I-75 is an example. A very narrow shoulder of the road. State police I've talked to are afraid to pull people over because it's dangerous for them and for the people that are pulling over. The shoulders aren't wide enough or safe enough to do that. So taking a holistic approach, design and enforcement, using technology or artificial intelligence to help with the enforcement, I think that's what you're going to have to do, if not now, certainly in the future.
I live in Bonita, but I know Stantec does a lot of work for the city of Bonita as well. Seems like every time we come up with a new roadway, we have a multi-use path. And what I hear from people is they are afraid of the electric bikes. Is there a plan to do away with multi-use paths and have a separate lane for bikes and electric bikes?
is there a plan? Though it's kind of
I can actually answer that because, that kind of question, pops up at every meeting that we have in the MPO, county-wide. And, we talk about shared use path and all that. And there are people who are saying that, those shared use paths should be for all users, including people on e-bikes. And maybe one of the things that they can do, and this was to us, and it's not really realistic in a way, is saying, you can have a separate path for high-speed cyclists, including, in the e-bike users or scooters and all that. But that would mean you would require bigger right-of-way. Now, regarding whether, we should be building more bicycle lanes to address, people who are on e-bikes or e-scooters, we come into also the issue with, who owns the roadway or who owns the roadway. So the state of Florida, if the roadway belongs to the state, then FDOT, Florida Department of Transportation, has the say in what can be done and what cannot be done. And in the past, you could potentially put a bicycle lanes when you're doing a resurfacing project if there were no bicycle lanes. If you had speeds up to 55 miles per hour or something like that. But now they have a new policy where they would not put any kind of bicycle lanes if the speed on that particular roadway is more than 40 miles per hour. So they would consider putting bicycle lanes. So here's the conundrum. We hear it all the time. The shared use path is not wide enough to accommodate all types of users, especially, if you have e-bike users and scooters, because some of the scooters can go really fast. And so they should be better off, if you ask them to use the roadway. Now the problem is, like you say, if you do not have a bicycle lane, it is not safe. And if you put someone in there, so let's say, you have a roadway which has got an existing shared use path and maybe a very narrow shoulder, and the person who is using his e-bike is someone who doesn't own a car and wants to go to the office or grocery shopping. He will be more inclined to use the shared use path rather than be in the road. So again, to your question, there's also ordinances that are out there. Now, City of Bonita Springs doesn't have an ordinance, the micromobility ordinance. The Village of Estero does, and so does City of Fort Myers Beach. City of Fort Myers have come up with micromobility ordinance that also defines whether you can or cannot use shared use path and you're pushed out into the roadway. So this is an ongoing conversation. People are getting hurt a lot, especially e-bike users. And one of the reasons, more and more people, you can find them in the ER, and those are e-bike users or scooters users, is because they are not inclined to wear helmets. So that's the other problem also. If you are on a e-scooter or e-bike, you are not wearing helmets, and that's unsafe. But, these are the issues we are facing, and I'm not sure, whether I have addressed all your, the entire question entirely.
Well, I just want to make one comment. Okay. We had a new design, I don't know if you guys did it, for, I think, Rosemary Drive. It had a 10-foot shared path on one side and a 5-foot sidewalk on the other. There was room to put a 10-foot shared path on the side with the 5-foot, 6-foot sidewalk. Then that 10-foot path could be striped for bikes, e-bikes, scooters, pedestrians, so that everybody is going in the flow of traffic. For whatever reason, our Director of Public Works didn't think there was enough room. but I couldn't find out a real reason. So all I'm saying is, if you mark a lane that says because they're not going to want to ride on the street. And I don't blame them. Because that's a good way to die. Because the people are talking on the phone, they're eating, they're doing all kinds of stuff. And if you don't have a separation other than a little white line between the car and the bike, it's dangerous. So I'm just saying, I hope, and if you tell me the city of Bonita Springs needs an ordinance, because we're having an election here, and hopefully we're going to elect some new council members and a new mayor. So are you telling me that Estero has an ordinance that talks about where bikes can go?
Well, not in well, that one is a micromobility ordinance, because like I said before, you have some e-bikes which goes at a speed more than 20 miles per hour, you know, electric assist and all that. So in the village, I mean, you can only ride those on the shared use path.
You cannot ride an over 20 mile an hour thing on the sidewalks.
No,
Only on the roadway.
that's class 1. So you have a class 2, which is throttle assisted. That's a no-no. And class 3 is up to 28 miles per hour. But then you have, you know, like e-bikes, which goes at a speed higher than that.
So, but you see the challenge rate is different entities can apply. There needs to be some consistency across so everybody knows what the rules are. Speaking to the law enforcement person who says, please tell us what the rules are so it's consistent. So same for users and same for enforcement. So that's the thing I think that Ron also is kind of putting out there is there are the challenges of consistency across municipalities and different political boundaries. And I think that's that consistency does fall with the elected officials, but also it falls on staff and administration to make good recommendations as to this is how it's working in our area, in our adjacent communities, and here's what potentially needs to happen between them. But that's the governance thing is the other challenge that engineers rarely have any control over, but we can give good advice. Is what I can say is, like, I think Ron's kind of laid some of this
Frank, just to, because there's a lot to cover.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously this is
I gotta get the solution.
an important issue.
Yeah.
You had a question.
One more question.
Let's stick to Estero for a moment.
Sure.
We have certain roads that are absolutely not able to handle traffic, such as when the new entertainment complex is open on Williams Road, okay? People will take a shortcut through River Ranch Road, which is where I live, and there's a high school there, and a day school coming, then it's going to be impossible to get even out of our community, number one. Number two, Vias Coconut Way stops at Coconut Road, at Corkscrew, and then if you try to go right when you're going towards 41, it's a 2-lane road, and there's shortcuts being taken there. I don't know what that road is called, because it's Via Coconut that they changed the name to. But these are the kinds of small roads that are just in Estero that need to be looked at, and I don't think if you or Ron or somebody is doing it, I'm not aware of the traffic engineer in Estero. If there is one, it seems like the code officer deals with that, and Lanning and Mary Gibbs and all that sort of stuff, but I don't see anything going on those roads. I know there's some drainage widening going on, but it ain't enough for those of us who live on these side roads, if you will.
Frank, to add to your initial question, first of all, I would like to, again, follow up on the speeding. There have been many people who, of course, been complaining about motorbike speeding, especially on Three Oaks Parkway on a Sunday. The police have advised us that, of course, it's very difficult to catch them because that could lead to all sorts of accidents. But my feeling is that, as has been mentioned, photography or video of people that are speeding who could be followed up later would obviously deter that. The other two things, in addition to the point that was just made about the venue that's going to be along Williams and Via Coconut, of course we already do have the very large complex that's the complex over on
Apartments?
yeah, no, on Ben Hill Griffin, the Hertz Arena. Now, when there are big concerts over there, although attempts are made to allow people to leave more freely, you know, I've had people tell me that it's taken them sometimes even an hour to get from there around the various roads. Now, when people are extremely frustrated, that in itself can, I think, lead to mistakes and lead to accidents. And I think that's an area to take a look at, especially at those top periods of time. And the one that we've missed, of course, is the expansion of East Corkscrew. There again, there have been a great many accidents, partly because of the construction that's going on. But Engage Estero in the past has stepped in to examine the way in which access from the various gated communities along East Corkscrew are structured. And we've made, which has been taken up, suggestions that where these gated communities have entrances and exits, that they match up so that only one set of traffic lights would control both the north side or the south side of those gated communities. But it seems crazy to me that Engage Estero would have to kind of put in the request for this when the planning doesn't seem to be taking these issues into account. So I would like you to make a note of those issues, if you would.
And I'm taking notes, Rod's taking notes. I'm going to be borrowing that video circuit, so to capture everything, and it's all important. So I'm going to move on to the next thing about some of the, we call them countermeasures, crash countermeasures, right? So, and you all have echoed some of the things that are already on here, right? Speed management, pedestrian and bicyclists. I'm going to read you all the bullets on here because I got 4 slides on here. How do we deal with intersections? And then one thing that's popped up is roadway departures. We have folks actually basically leaving the roadway. So there's a bunch of different countermeasures to address these types of crashes. So the speed management policies, right? The first step is policy in this process, right? So I'm going to read all of them, but it says part of it is evaluate the need for speed management strategies, such as feedback signs, optical speed bars, ahead of severe curves, for implementations on the high injury networks. There's a bunch of other pieces there that got suggested. The camera enforcement and technology. Yes, it sounds like a solution, and there are other communities that have implemented, and then there are other communities that have implemented and had to take them off because of privacy issues, different things like that. So you're going to have
You're always going to have someone
yes,
who doesn't want to obey the law.
yes,
Okay.
I get that.
Okay. And for whatever reason, that when they get a ticket as because of a license reader camera, they're going to sue for privacy reasons. There's no privacy when it comes to operating a motor vehicle. That's a privilege. It's not a right.
That is, I agree 100% on that. But that is also, like, as
Well,
you know,
the majority,
it's
there's quite a few. All of the states have cities within them that use license plate reader cameras and red light cameras. Yes. Now, if we're talking about Naples having the cameras and then doing away with them, it's because they didn't want to impact tourism. Had nothing to do with privacy.
I understand. Point taken, sir. I'm going to move to the next one, though. And we could have an hour-and-a-half session on just that one thing. So I move to the next one, though. Pedestrian bicycle safety. So one of the alarming things that comes out of the data is what the automotive industry has reacted to safety and put a lot more measures in cars to make them safer. Side impact bags, crumple zones, all these different technologies that have gone into car design. So there's more crashes, but fewer people are getting injured and killed in some of the modern cars because they are safer in a crash. But you're saying, why is the fatality and serious injury rate going up? The answer is, it's motorcycles, bicycles, and pedestrians who are actually suffering the brunt of that. So that is an alarming piece of statistic that says that needs more attention. So I'm going to say, you all, preaching to the choir, I already had circled this, but I love how you spoiler alerted my thing here that says, physically separate vulnerable users, bicyclists, pedestrians, and cyclists from traffic using buffered bike lanes, separate pathways, or infilling missing sidewalks. Absolutely, like, on-road, FDOT used to say, no matter what the speed, or up, I think below 55, a 4-foot bike lane is good enough for a bicycle. But now we won't put a 7-foot bike lane if it's more than 40 miles an hour. So that has changed. When somebody says, hey, what the policy and the rules have changed, the view of the context, the interpretation of what context means, that has changed. Even at the FDOT. I work for the FDOT. They're a really good client, but they hate it when I say this. Is like, man, what took you so long? Right? It took a long time to get there. So that is, but I think the good thing is they're moving in the right direction, and their influence over, other governments and things, when they're changing that design philosophy and those policies, that's a move in the right direction, and I think that's, I fully embrace that. Other crash countermeasures, this is pretty technical, but, a leading pedestrian interval. Quite frankly, a lot of places use this where you literally let the ped cross first before you let the cars go. They do that a lot. That is also a change in philosophy when somebody says, hits cars before people, and actually just puts the people before cars, right? And I think that's I'm gonna have to hold on. Yeah, I'll let you comment. I want to get through some of these because I have no doubt we are going to have a really interesting conversation. But these little things, it seems they're little things actually in the traffic signal timing of giving folks priority. And I will give you this other insight. We put out near-miss cameras for 2 days right when we started this project at the 5 worst intersections in Lee County. And the bad news was there were 2 non-near misses because they were just literally direct hits. We literally captured 2 crashes at 5 intersections in a 48-hour period. And the near miss, though, was a bike, somebody going through a crossing. And if they had had the right to go first, none of that would have happened. So some of these countermeasures are, what can we prevent from actually even happening? I'm going to go to the next question. Also controversial, lane repurposing projects. I have done a few of these. This is where you take a multi-lane roadway and you actually capture 2 of those lanes and reuse them, usually for bicycle and pedestrian, sometimes it's for transit. One of the things that we've found out over time is, folks hate congestion because it potentially induces cut-through traffic, but on the other side, some congestion and some friction actually slows traffic down. So that's what they generally use at urbanized places. So I circled the implement quick build projects to incorporate countermeasures for separate multimodal facilities. Ron spoke to the limited amount of right-of-way or potentially the limited amount of land that's available for these. So you have to get creative into implementing those solutions. Another is corridor management. I'm going to highlight 2 of these. Assess the unsignalized and uncontrolled intersections on high injury arterial high injury network arterial corridors for FHWA proven countermeasures. FHWA is the Federal Highway Administration, also known as United States Department of Transportation. They have been studying this for decades, and they have actually over time come up with some pretty good solutions. The other is develop more mid-block pedestrian crossings with appropriate traffic control. This is the challenge, right? We have what's the great thing about here? We got great weather, where everybody's out walking. You know, even when it's hot, people are out walking, but they're also making really bad decisions on where they cross. So what we want to do is figure out more logical places and safer places to walk. I understand like convenience is a big part of it, but we've got that is another piece because they are some of our most vulnerable users. Signal phasing and timing adjustments. One thing that we're really focusing on is evaluating left turn, high crash locations. Right now there's this what they call protected permissive. That's basically after the green arrow, you get the green ball, and then it's up to the driver to make a safe decision. So there are other places that are going to be, and I'll tell you what we've already recommended for Williams, you know, in US 41, it is permissive. And I mean, the statistics for that are support that the safety is more, well, we're saying the safety is more important and you should just make it protected. Correct. You can only make a green, you can only make a left on a green arrow and that's it. And I think that some folks will push back and say, you know, it's not as efficient because you're not using all the time to be able to get people through an intersection. But remember those numbers I gave you about cost benefit? You couldn't, just from that one crash that recently happened, you couldn't even overcome that. That's basically $55 million. You could build an overpass for that. Not that I'm advocating for one there. I think changing the timing is probably the easiest and most expedient thing to do with there. So the next one is kind of give you so there's multiple governments studying this, right? Village of Estero has a study going on. FDOT has a study going on. Lee County has a study going on. I would venture to say that a lot of municipalities are studying it as well. So what we want to do is show that we are actually coordinating with FDOT. We are actually looking at the different studies, and we are looking at, you know, FDOT has what they're calling a Target Zero Action Plan for US 41, and they have identified multiple measures here. And I'm not going to read them to you, but we have provided this so you will be able to have this document. But you can. There's a broader document too that that for US 41. The DOT also recognizes that. But what we're trying to do is make sure that two things. When we're studying it, we're looking at each other's studies to make sure that if we're not missing any, there's no gaps in those studies, and that it's also coordinated, and that the things that we recommend on the side streets jive with what the DOT is actually working on. And there used to be 3 E's, but now there's 6 E's, right? Education, encouragement, enforcement, equity, and evaluation. We talked a little bit about the engineering side of things and infrastructure. A lot of what we're doing is infrastructure. However, all of those infrastructure is not enough. It has to be all these different pieces. Education is very important in that process. Enforcement is very important in that process. The education of what the rules are for enforcement are also very important. So if other technologies get implemented, there will have to be a strong educational component for this, for that, before it ever rolls out. And there will have to be a constant educational process throughout the whole process. You just have to keep, because new people move in, people visiting from up north or other countries, they're coming in, so you've got this whole other group. So that has to be, education is something that may not be emphasized enough, but I like to emphasize it a lot. It is, and you all coming to this is a part of the education system, and I really appreciate you coming to this. So some example programs that we've got here, right? We've got the Alert Tonight, Click It or Ticket. Everybody knows that one, right? That's been in place for a couple decades, Click It or Ticket. And I think that's, providing safe routes to schools. Education is also like, what are the safest routes? If somebody's just moving here, we'll say, if there is a good alternative route, like a trail or a multi-use path or something like that, the folks need to know where those occur. And I think those are some of the examples of things in the educational, items in the educational realm that need to be emphasized and frequently used. And this is to build awareness. There's a lot of them, and there's even more than this. But I think that's what it's going to take. And now I'm going to pause. Tried to go through that one a little faster. I hope I didn't speak too fast. So, we jumped to safety areas and things like that, and we talked a little bit about countermeasures and policy, but this is that continuation. I've laid out some countermeasures and things. Is there anybody that would like to add in on the countermeasure policy discussion? So, this family.
I'm not sure. It seems like it's a policy discussion, but I came here to talk about a problem that I've been trying to address for over 10 years on US 41 at Pelican Colony Boulevard. And the policy part is that
Let's do that. Okay.
It's apparent that the traffic light that should be there is being delayed and only implemented because it was dependent on the developer on one side of the street to do it. And I had a friend who was extracted from her car trying to turn left across that area. Now they have a Culver's restaurant there where cars are pulling out and turning left over this huge wide intersection that has no definition. Cars are just jumping into the middle. And I know of 2 people that have died at that intersection as well. Truthfully, since my friend was extracted from her car 12 years ago, I have been trying to get this traffic light addressed, and they keep saying the developer on the east side is responsible for implementing this. So now we have a hospital on that side, we have a police officers, sheriff's department, and we have Culver's where random people who don't even know the area pull in, and then they pull out to go south, and they think they can cross at least 3 lanes of traffic. And as I said, get into this large intersection that has no definition at all, where cars are turning left and trying to stack up. So obviously I've been a bit frustrated over 10 years trying to get this done.
Thanks for noting that. And that, and full disclosure, part of my career, current career, I do work for development, and I understand that process. It can be challenging because everybody points at you and says, hey, we're just waiting for them to pay. I get that, but I also I have encouraged some of my clients to go ahead and now and build them and basically go and collect their share back from the government, because there's public benefit to both sides. That's how the statutes work on it. And I have to say that I frustrated a couple of my clients because they're out there hoping to get paid back, but they did what I would consider. I said, if I get you to do the right, this is the right thing for your. This is the right thing for your development and the people in your development, but it's also the right thing for the greater public. That's hard to do. So you may even hear that somebody's mad at me because they haven't been paid back yet. But for me, I think in the long term, it's worth it. That is a process and policy issue. And it's, I think you keep up the good fight, but the rules need to be adjusted to make sure that both sides are protected on that. I think that's, I totally get what you're saying, but I have a signal under construction right now before that first development goes in, and I had a call right before here where he says, "You please go to the county and see where we're at on getting paid back," and I said, "I will." So we'll do that, but that process of having the right thing in before, as he talked about from an operational standpoint, a safety standpoint, makes complete sense. So there's challenges to that legally as well, but I think that's always a challenge. I think we can't, but there is a way to there is a way around that. As long as if they feel like they're going to get paid back for their fair share, they'll generally want to put it in sooner rather than later anyways, because the cost of constructions have been going up too, right? It actually, the longer sometimes a developer waits, the more it's just going to cost them anyways. So there's that other piece from that perspective. So as a motivational tool, I use that one as well. As they said, I'll hold up the inflation costs and say, do it sooner later. Sorry, the other question, sir?
Yeah. Just about Coconut Road, to follow up with this lady's suggestion, I was former general manager of Miami. Not only with the traffic light issue at County Boulevard, but Coconut Road with all the new construction that's coming here. You have 3 agencies that own that darn road: Lee County, Benita Springs, and Estero. You guys need to really bring all those factors together and try to figure out how to widen that road, because when Ritz opens and Salt Leaf opens, oh my God, you'll never get out of the road. Run the goals.
Great.
So, just to be clear, you're talking about Coconut Road?
Coconut Road.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
Coconut Road from 41 to the Gulf.
Yes, West Coconut Road.
Okay.
I mean, we don't call it West Coconut Road, but
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
And then Rosado, the type property right on the corner. All coming.
See, one of his signals to me is when he stands. The hook's coming out, just so you know.
One other point.
It's the same thing my wife does.
But
Go ahead.
the designated walkways we're talking about, that would take people, and bikers and so forth, walk this main road to put them in a designated area. But there's been a lot of talk about this, I think it's called BERT or something like that.
Yep.
Well, but it just seems to me they've been talking about it for quite a while. And if it's an important safety matter, in my opinion, this vision, it should be something about there. Really got it.
So, full disclosure, my first nickname when I worked for Sarasota County was Depot Domingo, because I had to buy a train depot and a rails to trails. And rails to trails, one of the questions that popped up is a rails to trails a safety improvement? And the answer for me was yes, absolutely, because a whole separate bike trail that parallels a major roadway is absolutely one of our solutions. That's the best separated facility that you can have. They are also the most expensive ones. So I was unable to do the one in Sarasota, but the person who succeeded me got the first one in It took decades to get that one in. The next piece came up, and it went to referendum in Sarasota, and it took like 1/5, 1/10 the time to go implement the second piece, because it went to referendum. And they said, hey, we're going to do this other piece. It's not just good for recreation, it is good for safety. And so that passed with a 71%, by 71%. You know, in a time where nobody wants new taxes and all that. But it was a $65 million project that they got on the books, and the second half went to referendum and got approved. Well, I hate to say easily, but it was easily. And they got it done, and it's actually already implemented. It happened so fast. And they've gone back and they're now putting pet over crossings over the biggest crossings, right? They had little signals and stuff, but they've gone back and got other money to go and put that over. So I'm going to advocate for that. So you know, I don't know, like, how much did that cost me, the taxpayer? I want to look at my trim notice to see how much I'm paying per year for that improvement. They bonded it for 20 years. $7.87 a year is what it cost me, taxpayer. And I'm like, that's one venti caramel macchiato from Starbucks, according to my wife, without the tip. And I was like, per year. And I said, is that the fair trade-off? So I put that out there, and not advocating that you all, but I'm just telling you that the math in Sarasota worked. And does it make a big difference? Yes. From a safety standpoint, absolutely, because you're giving them a trail to someplace, right? Gets from one up, it actually gets to a lot of places. It's safe. It's completely separated from the rest of the roadways. And it's like the second most used recreational facility in the county after the beaches. And right now, after the hurricanes, it's the #1 thing being used right now in terms of recreational facilities. So I will say that I basically said, hey, he asked me the question, what do you think, Frank? Do you think does rails to trails count as a safety project? And the answer is an emphatic yes, it is. So I will stop. Yeah. So we'll stop on that, because
one of the things that I just want to also add to that is Frank showed you the map. It was not really legible, but he showed the high insurance network. And for Estero, it showed, US 41 as one of those segments, which is high insurance network, Imperial Parkway and Three Oaks Parkway. So BART, could be an alternative route that's going to reduce severe injury crashes for pedestrians and bicyclists, and therefore justifies the inclusion of the acquisition and the implementation of BART as part of our study. So it's going to be identified as one of the projects so that we can tap into future federal dollars. Just wanted to say that.
But before I just say a few more words, I would very much like to ask you to thank Frank for stepping in this morning in place of Matthew and providing such an eloquent and an extremely important set of facts for us. What I'm also thinking, because this was a decision that Engage Estero made just a week or so ago, given all the questions and the important issues that have come up this morning, I think it's essential that we do have the part 2 for this meeting, and that actually is being put into place in February. So we will obviously be providing you with more information about the follow-on to this. But there is some more things that we would like to share with you, and I know that Ron has a number of points that he wants to make in just a few moments. Just as a sidebar, before we do get on to those, I just wanted to cover a couple of quick things with you, just to tell you what Engage Estero has coming up. I wanted to mention a couple of quick things, and that is that we do have on November the 12th, a very important upcoming meeting, which is going to be about the impact of climate change on our community specifically, and the corollary of that is what you need to know and what solutions should be implemented here. The meeting is going to be chaired by the head of the FGCU's water school, and that will be Greg Tolley. The panel members will be Mike Savasi, who's the professor of the Department of Marine and Earth Sciences at FGCU, Matt DePolis, who's the policy director at Senabel Captiva Conservation Foundation, Cody Pierce, who's the Calusa waterkeeper, and we're also going to have one of FGCU students who's particularly focused on environmental issues as well. I won't tell you all about it. We do have details about this meeting on our website. It's actually on November the 12th at FGCU's Cohen Ballroom, and it's in the evening from 6 to 8 o'clock. If you have been to one of these meetings before, you'll know that they're very well attended and there's a lot to learn. Obviously, there are specific questions that you as the public can ask at this meeting, as it is a public forum. Unlike, although actually today's has been a little bit like that with the questions that have been asked, but that is a formal public forum. So do please make every effort to attend to that one. A couple of the other things I wanted to say, which was on my slide, but I remember what was there, was that in the new year, as I mentioned in February, we plan to do a part 2 for this very issue of safety on the roadways here in Estero. And I'm also hoping that in March, we would hope to have our village manager, Steve Sarkozy, or Dave Willis, who Ron has mentioned a little bit earlier. You may be aware that the village has instigated this year, in 2024, a comprehensive traffic study of our area, of the village. And I would like to have the opportunity to get the village management to tell us a little bit about the outcome of that meeting, and again have opportunities for you to ask questions about some of the suggestions and solutions. And of course it was really interesting to hear Frank mentioned how their organization, and of course the NPO as well, not only do their own thing, but incorporate information from these various municipality investigations, of course, in their own planning and in their recommendations. And that's very encouraging to know that. So those were really the few things that I wanted to mention. Ron, I'm not sure if we're going to find your slides in there. I was looking through them.
I have it on like.
Oh, you do?
Do you want me to switch your?
Yeah, we can do. Yeah, we can do. If, yeah, that would be fine. Thank you, Frank, very much. I think Terry can help you with that. Ron, please come on up.
So maybe in the meantime, I can address some of the questions that were put to us, the MPO staff. And going back to Bart, I think, like one of the questions that was asked was, what is the time frame for implementation of that particular project, and could it be shortened? Now, I have a slide in there that actually shows what is the implementation time frame. And to be honest, like the time frame that is shown out here is supposed to be completed by 2032. That itself is very ambitious. And the reason I'm saying is very ambitious. Do you have that? Oh, okay.
So the clicker won't work on. We changed computers.
Can we just?
Yeah, keep on going.
Don't let me drive off with that. No. You please. Go ahead and try it, Ron. See if it works. Down arrow, please.
Oh, yeah, it is.
Good.
So that is the schedule that we have right now. And as you can see, 2030, actually 2031 is when we're supposed to complete.
So that is with the assumption that we'll get all the funding necessary to buy the right-of-way. The right-of-way, as you know, is the biggest challenge. And what Trust for Public Land is trying to do is get those funding for the right-of-way acquisition in small bites of an apple, you can say. So they first started out with what they call the ATTIF, which is a federal grant, and they asked for $12 million. They're hoping that they will be successful, and once they do, they would have more money committed that could be actually used towards local match, because when you try to submit an application for federal grants, it is very useful to have local match to be able to provide that as a leverage. And then you have other grant programs like the RAISE, which can bring in a lot of money. But again, going back to the earlier question, can this schedule be shortened? The answer is no. This schedule by itself is pretty ambitious. And on this particular graphic, it shows, like, what is the plan of getting those funds. So as you can see, 1/3 of the funding, they expect the funding to come from the feds, and that can also include federal appropriations. And then on the state side, 1/3 of the funding, again, some of that potential source could be state appropriations, and then what we have called the Sun Trail program that is run by the state of Florida. And you could potentially tap into both right-of-way acquisition and also actual design and construction. And then 1/3, would come out from the locals. Now, that would be kind of a heavy lift, depending upon, how much, say, Lee County is willing to provide. And I know the village has already committed $5 million, and there could be some more money. And then, you have City of Bonita Springs, which have committed like $2.5 million, but there could be more to the tune of $5 million. So anyway, the other question that was asked of MPO staff was the County Road 951 extension. I think the question was, how did it suddenly become a talking point? And so I want to get into that. And also, I think the question was an alignment. Do you have a kind of a specific alignment or something like that? So that's pretty much what we have back from 2005, because that was when a PD&E study was done by the county. And that was the original alignment. So on the left-hand side, if there's a north-south direction, you can see it better. So pretty much all of it, you can see, I have to go to there. This is the existing part, that's Logan. And then it's supposed to go this way, east of I-75. And then this is the Larry Kiker Preserve. You can see it even better out here. That's the whole Larry Kiker Preserve and its county lands. And also that's the hidden preserve, and that also is county land. So all of that, the whole alignment, in fact, is part of the Lee MPO's needs plan. The difference between a needs plan and a cost feasible plan is the needs plan, there's no money actually plan for being used, whereas the cost feasible plan is based upon revenues that we expect in the future and is not in the cost feasible plan. That's what I'm trying to say. But there's a small segment which is actually in the cost feasible plan. That's Airport Hall Road. That's actually that's Corkscrew, and this portion out here, that's actually in the cost feasible plan for I think 2036 to 2040. So no matter what, whatever happens to the whole concept of the County Road 951 extension. This is actually going to be built, proposed to be built within the time frame of I think it's 2046 to 2050 time frame by the county. So the MPO is actually working on a study to come up with different alignment because there are going to be variations of this particular alignment out here because this is from 2005. So there's going to be other variations to this alignment. And then you have the city of Bonita Springs, like we had elected officials proposing the idea that instead of going through like this, why not contemplate having an alignment that actually uses Immokalee Road in Collier County and go straight and meet Corkscrew Road somewhere at this point, and then keep on going to State Road 82. So that was the other question, that was the question on County Road 951. And then, let's see. Okay. I think some of you or someone was interested in a wrong-way driver detection system, and the question was what is the status on the wrong-way driving notification systems on I-75, and what is the status on some of those notification systems on the roadway system. So basically, let's say we're talking about Corkscrew exit, so 75% of all the wrong way driving that is happening in District 1 is basically as a result of people inebriated, and it is happening at night. And all of that is happening on the off-ramps, not other places, but mainly on the off-ramps. And most of the wrong way driving incidents that are happening in District 1, I mean, the state of Florida is divided into various FDOT districts, and we are in District 1. So majority of those wrong way driving actually has been happening in Lee County. So they started with a project, this project started in August 2023, where they're trying to put, a notification system on the off ramps in Lee County. So before I get into that, I just wanted to explain how this whole thing works. So let's say, this is I-75. And this is your Corkscrew off-ramp. And so, you have Corkscrew Road going that way. And so a wrong way driver let's say, if you're heading, say, eastbound on Corkscrew Road, and then you are, disoriented, because you could be disoriented at night, and you might take a left. So if you start going that way, so they have this notification system, and as you can see, this is a pole with two cameras, a front facing camera and a back facing camera, and then you have this sign out here. So once the wrong way driver is identified or detected, this thing lights up. These are LED lights that lights up. The other thing that happens is, you have a front-facing camera that is actually a detector, and so that front-facing camera actually works on video analytics. So this is what that front-facing camera is going to see. That's the computer vision that the camera is going to see, and this is all that roadway. This roadway is divided into detection zones. So basically what happens is that when a car goes over that, a wrong way driver goes over that, so there's a concentration of pixels that the high definition camera is going to see, and automatically sends an alert to the operators of your RTMC or Regional Traffic Management Control Center. You have one on base on Daniels Parkway at the rest area. So they're going to see it, and they are immediately going to put the notification on these big signs that you see on the I-75. These are dynamic message signs that there's a wrong-way driver and watch for it. And also they inform the Florida Highway Patrol. So they're given 15 minutes, and that notification system goes like 5 miles, radius. And within that 15 minutes of time, FSP has to stop that car, or you can actually self-correct, because once it starts flashing and all that, the driver can go to the side of the road and then do a 3-point turn and get out of there. So anyway, that's how it works. But then, what is the status? That was the question, are they all completed and all that? The question is no, but most of the exits are completed, including the ones on Corkscrew Road, both northbound and southbound off-ramps. If you look at the roadway, you are going to see that one pole with the 2 cameras and the highlighted wrong way sign. And the only ones that are not completed are the ones on Bonita Beach Road, and they are going to be under construction soon. One on Colonial Boulevard, because we have that interchange project that is going on, where they're putting the DDI, or diverging diamond interchange, and the last one being Elico. So they are going to be completed by the end of the year. So that was, and also, MLK Boulevard is all completed, and Lockett, Palm Beach, then the other one not completed, but is going to be completed by the end of the year, is Bayshore Road. So let me see, the other questions that I had that I was supposed to provide some kind of an answer. I think you had a question regarding school bus stops on roadways. So my question to you on that one, are you concerned about, people getting stuck behind a stopped school bus, or are you concerned that some roadways, they are so narrow that, the school students have to be waiting for the bus on the pavement itself?
So I think the question that I was posed, Ron, was this one. It stemmed from a number of problems on East Corkscrew. Because some of the gated communities, do have pull-offs into their area. However, the school bus drivers were told that they couldn't take them, or there was some issue about whether or not the bus could pull into the designated area off the highway and into the first part of the gated community. And because they weren't supposedly allowed to do that, either it was a restriction by the gated community, or it was a problem of the people who organized the bus routes for the children. The danger then was that because the bus was stopping on East Corkscrew with all of the construction that was going on, that was actually becoming a danger. So that was how the question was arisen.
Okay. So I had been in talks with the school district. I also spoke with David Williams, who is the public works director for the village. And I also happened to speak with someone who is a City of Fort Myers transportation engineer, but happens to live in one of the gated communities of Corkscrew. So in the village, within the village, you do have Bellaterra, Stony Brook, and Preserve. Actually, the buses are actually doing what they're supposed to. They are getting off the Corkscrew Road and going into those communities. And then outside into Lee County, like you do have Verdana, which is, the developer is the Camerata, and then also Preserve, which do have the drivers actually going into those communities. So from the sound of it, like it seems there's not too much of an issue going on in Corkscrew now. But one of the interesting things is, like talking with the driver, another driver, like the school district, one of the engineers, they were saying, like there was a lot of going back and forth between the school district and the developer and the public regarding Verdana. So Verdana, actually, some of you probably knows that they actually built a mail kiosk and it had parking. So basically that was the designated spot for where the, like the bus was supposed to come and pick up the students and also to drop them off. But the school district ignored it. And they had their own spot right on the roadway entering the gated community at Corkscrew. But they came to some kind of an agreement where you have the publics on Verdana Boulevard. And so they started picking up students there. And then what the developer did was actually build like a turnaround, not exactly a turnaround, but, like they poured concrete right next to where the bus stops so that it would be safer.
So it sounds like the problem has been resolved then.
Right. And here's the other thing, though. Also, speaking with David Williams, he said, like, well, there were other places where, like, for example, Broadway, which is a 2-lane roadway. And so the students were actually waiting on the roadway to get picked up by the buses. So what the village did was actually, like install a concrete pad, and they had lighting installed, they had seating installed, and they were off the pavement. So there were 2 places out there. And here's a question for you that he said, like maybe, when you speak with Engage Estero, ask them, like if there are any other locations that you have concerns within the village, and he would gladly work with you to resolve that.
That's fine. I know that one of our consultants who works closely with us, who lives in Bellaterra, Mark Nowitzki, has also a lot of contacts with the people in the East Corkscrew area. Right. And I will speak to him and see if there are any other issues. But I would now like to thank you, Ron, for addressing some of those key questions. And again, to Frank, both of you, I think it was very, very kind of you to come along this morning and give up your time to speak to us. This is an important issue. It's an ongoing one, as I know you know. It's not going to go away. And certainly we'll hope to maybe address a number of other issues that are on people's minds. And perhaps maybe in February there'll be some further developments that have occurred in relation to what your investigations are, which are obviously ongoing, that we can bring to the table. So again, thank you all very much for being here this morning. Thank you again to our speakers, and obviously we wish you a very good afternoon. Thank you.
So, we have a second public meeting for this process. It's on December 9th from 5 to 7 p.m. at the Hilton Garden Inn on Corporate Commerce Way. I have flyers here for that. If some folks have picked them up, but if I'm going to leave it here if you're interested. Also has QR codes if you want to take a deeper dive into the process.
Thank you. And as I mentioned, given some of you were obviously interested in the slides that we've had today, although we don't normally put them on our website, but given the importance of what we've been through, I will make sure that we tell you where those slides are from today's presentation, aside from any summary that I make from the meeting. So you will have all of that information. We'll send that out. There are some brochures that we have at the back from Engage Estero, and also if any of you want the program from FGCU's Bauer School of Music. I was there just the other day listening to one of their concerts. They do a great job, and their program is there if any of you are interested in that. So please have a look and see if there's anything you want. And once again, thank you for coming.